How's the Optimus project going? I remember when we talked last, and you said this publicly, that it's in doing some light testing inside the factory.
Yeah.
So it's actually being useful. What's the build of materials, and when, for something like that at scale, so when you start making it like you're making the Model 3 now and there's 1 million of them coming off the factory line, what would they cost? $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, you think?
Yeah, I've discovered that really that, anything made in sufficient volume will asymptotically approach the cost of its materials. So now some things are constrained by the cost of intellectual property and like paying for patents and stuff. So a lot of what's in a chip is like paying royalties and depreciation of the chip fab. So, but the actual marginal cost of the chips is very low. So Optimus, it obviously is a humanoid robot. It weighs much less and is much smaller than a car. So you could expect that in high volume, and I'd say that you also probably need three production versions of Optimus. So you need to refine the design at least three major times, and then you need to scale production to sort of the 1 million unit plus per year level. Mm. And I think at that point, the cost, the labor and materials on Optimus is probably not much more than $10,000.
Yeah, and that's a decade-long journey, maybe?
Basically, think of it like the Optimus will cost less than a small car.
Right.
So at scale volume with 3 major iterations of technology, and so if a small car, costs $25,000, it's probably like $20,000 for an Optimus, for a humanoid robot that can be your buddy, like a combination of R2-D2 and C-3PO, but better.
Yeah,
honestly, I think people are going to get really attached to their humanoid robot because, like you look at you watch Star Wars and it's like R2-D2 and C-3PO. I love those guys.
Yeah.
They're awesome. And their personality and all R2 could do is just beep at you.
Right.
and couldn't speak English. You need C-3PO to translate the beeps.
So you're in year 2 of that. If you did 2 or 3 years per iteration or something, it's a decade-long journey for this to hit some sort of scale. And
I would say major iterations are less than 2 years. So
okay.
It's probably on the order of 5 years.
Yeah.
Maybe 6 to get to 1 million units a year.
And at that price point, everybody can afford one on
Yes.
planet Earth. It's going to be that 1-to-1, 2-to-1. What do you think ultimately, if we're sitting here in 30 years, the number of robots on the planet versus humans?
Yeah, I think the number of robots will vastly exceed the number of humans.
Vastly, yeah.
Vastly exceed. You have to say, who would not want their robot buddy? Everyone wants a robot buddy.
Totally.
It's just like, especially if it can, it can take care of take your dog for a walk. It could, mow the lawn. It could watch your kids. It could, it could teach your kids. It could.
But we could also send it to Mars.
Yeah, absolutely.
We could send a lot of robots to Mars to do the work needed to make it a colonized planet for humans.
And Mars is already the robot planet. There's like a whole bunch of robots, like rovers and
only robots.
Helicopter. Yeah, it's only robots.
Yeah.
I think the sort of useful humanoid robot opportunity is the single biggest opportunity ever. Because if you assume I think the ratio of humanoid robots to humans is going to be at least 2-to-1, maybe 3-to-1. Because everybody will want one, and then there will be a bunch of robots that you don't see that are making goods and services.
And you think it's one generalized robot that then learns how to do different tasks, or?
Yeah.
Hey,
we are a generalized.
Yeah, we're a generalized non-robot.
We're just made of meat.
Yeah, exactly. We're a meat puppet, a generalized meat puppet.
Yeah, I'm operating my meat puppet, we are actually.
we're gonna have it.
And by the way, it turns out as we're designing Optimus, we sort of learn more and more about why humans are shaped the way they're shaped, and why we have 5 fingers and why your little finger is smaller than your index finger. Obviously why you have opposable thumbs, but also why, for example, the major muscles that operate your hand are actually in your forearm, and your fingers are primarily operated the muscles that actuate your fingers are located. The vast majority of your finger strength is actually coming from your forearm, and your fingers are being operated by tendons, little strings. And so the current version of the Optimus hand has the actuators in the hand and has only 11 degrees of freedom. So it doesn't have all the degrees of freedom of human hand, which has, depending on how you count it, roughly 25 degrees of freedom. Right. And it's also not strong enough in certain ways because the actuators have to fit in the hand. So the next generation Optimus hand, which we have in prototype form, the actuators have moved to the forearm, just like a human, and they operate the fingers through cables, just like a human hand. And then the next generation hand has 22 degrees of freedom, which we think is enough to do almost anything that a human can do.
And presumably, I think it was written that X and Tesla may work together and provide services, but my immediate thought went to, if you just provide a grok to the robot, then the robot has a personality and can process voice and video and images and all of that stuff.
Yeah,